Hi guys, so I read my first ever sci-fi and it was a journey, let me tell you. If you didn't know, I am normally an avid fantasy reader, but I've always been very interested in sci-fi as a genre. There's just something about it that is calling to me. So recently I read my first ever sci-fi novel, and here is my review of it. This is an iconic book. The first sci-fi I've ever read is Dune by Frank Herbert. Oh, I should probably hold up my copy of it. That was silly. Is there now going to be a gap in my bookshelf that's really annoying? Yeah, there is, isn't there? Oh no, what can I put in its place? There we go, perfect. We now have a Terry's chocolate orange in my bookshelf. It's the only thing I could find near me that would fit. So firstly, although overall I enjoyed this book, there were quite a few moments that left me scratching my head in confusion. That's not rare, I am often confused. But today I want to discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So I hope that you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up if you do, and let me know if you've read Dune and also what you thought to it. Just a disclaimer, this will be a spoiler-free review. I will not talk about spoilers. However, if you would like to hear my spoiler thoughts, then I would direct you to have a look at the live stream where I discussed this book. If you weren't aware, I am doing a free book club on my YouTube channel and Dune was the pick for February. Each month we have a live stream where we can discuss our thoughts with full frontal spoilers, and each live stream is saved as a video under the live tab on my channel page. So if you would like to hear my spoilery thoughts on Dune, then please go ahead and watch that live stream. And if you want to join the book club, then all you need to do is read the book for each month and join in on the live stream if you want to. And the live stream for this month is going to be on Sunday the 30th of March at 7 PM BST. And we'll be discussing The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. So Dune was released in 1965. That's a long old time ago. Sorry if you were born then and I've just said that it was a very long time ago. No shade to you. In human life, you're not old, but in book life, this is quite old. And this is known as one of the greatest science fiction novels ever written. Which, I'm just gonna say right here, right now, I do agree. I can see why this is claimed to be one of the best sci-fis ever written. This was in a league of its own. This is unique. I don't know if I will ever read a book that feels like this one. If you know of a book that feels like this one, please let me know. I'd be so intrigued to know. So the story takes place on a desert planet called Arrakis, also known as Dune. And the planet has this valuable substance called spice, which is really important for the universe. They harvest it on Arrakis, and the novel follows a guy called Paul Atreides, and he is a young nobleman who has this power struggle. He has to take on a lot of responsibility involving Arrakis. Without spoilers, that is as much as I'm going to say. So I want to spend a moment talking about characters and world building. For me, one of the strengths that I love about a book is the world building and the complex characters. I normally don't mind if a book feels slow as long as there is so much focus on world building that it makes the universe feel real to me even when it's not. That is how I know an author is talented, is when he has created, or she has created, this very unrealistic world, a universe, but makes it feel like it could be real. I feel like that is exactly what Frank Herbert has done. I have to credit his world building and his universe building. I also think that in addition to that, the focus on politics is crazy good throughout this book. There is such a power struggle dynamic consistently running throughout this book. It's like all these different houses that are just constantly fighting each other. It kind of reminded me of if A Song of Ice and Fire was a sci-fi with all the different houses and so many political issues, but it's set on this desert planet Arrakis, set after humans have fought against AI, so set way into the future. Not only is Frank Herbert really good at discussing politics, he's also great at discussing religious themes. That is another theme that is so consistent throughout the entirety of this book. There's religious aspects tied to the Fremen culture, which we learn a lot about in this book. I found it highly interesting. You also have the Bene Gesserit, which is where Paul's mum was kind of mentored through. You have the Mentats, and then the way that Arrakis runs, the desert, the harvesting of spice, the sandworms, the cultures. It's all tied together so well that it just feels so much bigger than a classic sci-fi novel. It feels almost like a legacy. So point number one, The world building, the universe building is incredible. Secondly, the complexity of the characters is great as well. There are some very interesting characters from all different walks of life in this book. Like I mentioned, you've got Paul's mother Jessica, who represents the Bene Gesserit. But then you've also got Stilgar, who is like a Fremen leader. He's actually one of my favourite characters. I really liked Stilgar. I thought he was very sassy. You've got the evil baddie Baron Harkonnen, who represents his side of things from like the wider universe, not just specific to Arrakis. And then you've got Paul and his father, Duke Atreides. There's just so many different people from so many different walks of life. And I just thought that the characters were very, very interesting. There was just so many different characters all feeling very unique. So I have to credit Frank Herbert on his complexity of characters as well and what they represent. So let's talk about the writing style. Now this is where the challenge came in for me. Frank Herbert has a very distinct writing style that in some parts felt too intellectual for me. Let's be honest, this guy is clever. He is an intelligent dude, but not everybody who is reading his works is going to share the same intelligence, and I wouldn't say I'm like the dumbest person in the world. I mean, I hope I'm not. There's, what, almost 8 billion of us? If I was the dumbest person in the world, I would feel not great in terms of self-esteem, but saying that, I felt not smart at all in the slightest when reading this book because I was just so confused a lot of the time. And I think I shared this in my live stream, that there was just so much that I felt like wasn't computing in my brain. I almost felt like his writing style was too smart for me. I'm just being very honest and very authentic in my opinions. I still enjoyed it. I just felt like I didn't grasp a whole lot of it, and I actually feel like a reread of this is where things will start to sink into place. I feel like when I reread this, I will hopefully understand a whole lot more than I did the first time through. There's just so much to it. His writing style is a little bit hard to follow. It's a very dense book with a lot of terminology that is very unique to Arrakis. And there is actually a huge section at the end of this book that has a list of the terminology and their definitions, like a dictionary, and it's huge. And I didn't realise that that was there until after I'd finished the book. If I'd have known that that was there during me reading the book, I think that that would have helped a lot. Because half the time I didn't have a clue what the characters were going on about because they were using all of these terms as very specific to them and their culture. Whereas if I had known that there was a dictionary in the back, I would have just flicked back and forth and I would have understood the story a lot more because I would have known what the characters were referring to. So I would just recommend that if you are planning on going into Dune, just check the back of the book, see if there's a dictionary there, and you're all good to go if there is. There's also quite a lot to keep track of. I felt like the storyline in general was easy to follow. Like, it was easy to follow what Paul was doing, where he was going, what the conflict was. That was easy to follow. I think it was more like the side things. And let's not even get started on the internal monologues. So the different chapters are kind of told through like different points of views, different POVs, which is helpful. I love in a book when you get to see the inner workings of somebody's mind. You get their inner monologues. Whew, I am so glad that people cannot see or read my inner monologues because I think you would all fear for me. But it was so interesting and so intriguing to see the ways that people's minds work and how they think about stuff and how they perceive stuff. Again, it adds a lot of character depth. However, again, it's so dense and so detailed. You've got characters thinking about their plans, their philosophies, their destinies, their backgrounds, their upbringings, their cultures, that it took me quite a lot of time to digest it all, actually. There was a lot of information about each character. So you'll be fired with a load of information about Jessica and her background, and then you'll be fired with a load of information about the Baron and his background, and it was just quite a lot to take in. This book is very information heavy. It's all very interesting, it's just a lot. There's also a lot of symbolism and underlying themes woven throughout the narrative. This is not a light read. This is the exact opposite of what I would call a palate cleanser. So for me, a palate cleanser is like a very light, fluffy, easygoing book. You don't have to think too hard about it. and it can be a very quick, refreshing read after a heavy book. Everything I just said there, this is the exact opposite of. This is very deep. This requires thought and effort. It's rewarding, but it can feel draining. Like, I feel like there was a lot of mental energy being put into reading when I was going through this book. Hence why I'm so grateful for those of you who joined the book club live stream, because you really helped me to understand parts that I did not understand about this book initially. And I felt like because there were parts of it that felt quite draining and very information heavy, I overlooked some stuff or didn't pick up on some things, and a lot of you guys clarified that for me. So eternally grateful for that. One thing that I will say as well, the random time jumps in the middle were very confusing for me. It wasn't very clear that it was a time jump. And it's like a time jump of a good few years as well, and quite a lot has changed. And it just felt so random to me, or I didn't pick up on it straight away. And I was reading the chapter after the time jump, and I was thinking, huh? What? Why has everything changed? And then I realised, oh, it's because we've fast forwarded into the future. Again, I'm not sure if that's just me being a wee bit dumb. And what I will say as well is that, unfortunately, a downside to me is that the ending of this book felt extremely rushed. Goodness me, it's like there was a very nice, slow, consistent pace throughout the whole book, which I did quite like. It was all very interesting. There wasn't too much tension going on, but it was enough to keep me fulfilled. I liked the pacing of it, and then bam, at the end, everything happens at once. And the last couple of pages just end abruptly. And I'm like, huh? Is that the end of the book? So yeah, interesting decisions on the pacing at the end of the book, Herbert. Not that he's going to listen to me because he is sadly no longer with us. My golly gosh, what a brilliant book did he write in his time. I did enjoy that climactic point at the end of the book. It was just very fast. Felt like we sped through it. Also, I will say this book feels like a standalone. Now, I'm not sure if that's because it initially was meant to be a standalone. It now no longer is. It is part of a series now, which is exciting because I love delving into a good series. But yeah, this book does feel like a standalone. Like, I could stop reading the series right now and I wouldn't feel like I'd left it on a cliffhanger. This feels like it ties things up. It feels like it has a conclusion, and it feels like it has an ending. So I am going to read the rest of the series because I want to. I'm interested in it. But if I didn't, it wouldn't feel uncomfortable for me to leave it because it's not a cliffhanger. I hope that makes sense. So let's talk about themes and philosophical depth. Oh, look at me whipping out the intelligent terms. Who do I think I am? Frank Herbert? So I think if you commit yourself to this book and you stick with it, you will highly appreciate and value the way that Herbert weaves together all of his different themes of religion, politics, philosophy, ecology as well. There's the whole like ecological workings of the planet, which was so interesting. I didn't expect to learn so much about harvesting spice, but it was so gosh darn interesting. And I must say, those sandworms, there's a particular chapter involving Paul and sandworms, which I thought was incredible. Possibly my favourite chapter of the entire book. I won't spoil it in case you haven't read this, but if you've read it, I hope you know which chapter I mean. I just thought it was sick. So at the heart of Dune, there is a huge theme about power. Who holds the power, how the power is used, and the consequences of using that power and how it ripples throughout time. I also love the way that Herbert tackles the idea of prophecy. And without spoiling anything, the way that Paul has this burden of his fate placed upon him. It's just really compelling. It adds to his character depth because he's having to balance all of these new responsibilities, and there's a lot of people depending on him as well because of these past prophecies. I think Paul's journey is more than just about fighting for control of Arrakis. It's also about discovering who he is and what he wants to sacrifice for the greater good. And I really liked Paul as a main character. I liked his inner monologues. I liked the ways that he interacted with other people. A big variety of people. I liked the way that he tried to control his use of power. I just enjoyed Paul as a character, and that makes a book so much more enjoyable, is when you have a main consistent character and they're not annoying. I did not find him annoying. There were some characters that I did find annoying. Jessica was a wee bit annoying for me. There were other characters as well that were a little bit annoying. Paul wasn't. I really like him as a main character. I also liked that Dune wasn't just about the action or the politics. It also raises some big questions about humanity's relationship with the environment, which I found really intriguing, how civilizations rise and fall, and the nature of leadership and how that can come to be as well. It was a very thought-provoking book. And before I move on to my final thoughts, I just want to also mention how much I love the Bene Gesserit litany for fear, where it focuses on the quote of "fear is the mind killer." It's referenced consistently throughout the book in times of hardship. I feel like I could take a thing or two from that. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and free me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. I just love that. Tattoo that on me. So, my final thoughts and conclusions. I was expecting this book to be amazing and iconic. It definitely is. I can see why this is not a book for everybody. It is not an easy read. It's a very intellectual, detailed, dense writing style. It's a very heavy book. It is a challenging read, but deeply rewarding if you do put in that time and effort, and if you're patient enough to wade through the complexity. I felt highly satisfied when I had finished this book. The characters, the themes, the universe that Herbert has created are all incredible. They are so fascinating, and it is clear to see why this book has a lasting impact on sci-fi as a genre. And I will definitely read more sci-fi. So if you do have any sci-fi recommendations that you think I would enjoy or that you've really highly rated and you want other people to read, please do let me know. I don't actually have that much sci-fi in my collection. I'm starting to grow my collection a little bit, but it's definitely not that much. So I would appreciate some recommendations. I know that I might not have picked up on everything from my first read through, and if I do get the opportunity in the future, by opportunity I mean time, which is sacred, I would definitely reread this to see what I pick up on second time through, now that I understand more about the different cultures and the language use. So now I am really curious, for those of you that have read Dune, what did you think to it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Alternatively, if you've never read Dune, would you consider picking it up based on this review? I'd love to know whether or not you are planning to read it or if you think it's something that you would enjoy. I am going to read the next book. I'm excited for the ride. I just have to be in a place where I'm ready for a mental workout in order to do it. So that is my review of Dune. Now I'm going to put the book back in its place and remove the chocolate that is on my bookshelf. I'll be saving this for later. Why am I so weird? Remember, if you want to get involved in the book club on this here YouTube channel, it is free. Just keep an eye on my posts on my channel page because I update you with what book we're reading each month and when the live stream is. I would love to have you involved. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment with your thoughts and opinions. I'd love to read through those. I also just want to give a huge shout out to the Dragon Riders who are supporting my channel. Thank you so much, it means the world to me. You are so appreciated. If you'd like to have your name featured in my videos like this one, then please consider becoming a Dragon Rider. Or if you'd like to support the channel in any way, then please check out the channel memberships. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.